Hello and welcome back to our introduction and guide to supported decision making. My name is Jonathan Martinis. I am the Senior Director for Law and Policy at the Burton Blatt Institute of Syracuse University. In this session, we are going to talk about where we truly go from here, where Jenny's case takes us, and what supported decision making can do for us and how. But the first thing I want to talk to you about is capacity. Because when we talk about guardianship, capacity is a very important concept. Because the laws always talk about capacity. If you lack capacity to make decisions, you may need a guardian. Or if you don't have the capacity to manage your affairs, you may need a guardian. It begs the question, what is capacity? Is it black and white? Do you have capacity or you don't? Well, commonsensically, you know the answer to that. Because it's never black and white. All of us have different capacities. Some of us have the capacity to do certain things, but not others. I don't have the capacity to manage, for example, my auto repairs. I have to get help with that. Some of us have capacity to do all kinds of things, but not others. Others of us have capacity sometimes, but not others. Sometimes people need help or more help depending upon the day, the week, or the month. All of these have people making decisions in different ways with different levels of help. And we know that from a common sense standpoint. We know that capacity isn't black and white. Let me give you an example. I have the capacity to go to the doctor when I have the flu and say, please give me something to make me feel better. And when the doctor says, take this pill, I have the capacity to do it. I don't have the capacity to even spell erythromycin or azithromycin. I don't have the capacity to know the difference between the two. I don't have the capacity to understand why the doctor would prescribe one but not the other. Does that mean I lack the capacity to manage my own health care? In January, I had the capacity to go to the doctor and say, please make my knee stop hurting. It wakes me up at night. I want to be able to run again. And the doctor said he would do this or that or the other with this procedure. And I said, please make it stop hurting. I had the capacity to consent to that surgery. I can't spell meniscus. Does that mean I lack the capacity to make decisions about my health care? Of course not, because I got help. The doctor explained to me what he was going to do, and I agreed to it. I got help. So when we think about capacity, the most important thing to think about is this. If you can only make decisions with help, if you need assistance to exercise your right to make choices, are you incapacitated? Of course not. Because all of us get assistance to exercise our capacity, whether it's going to Google or a friend. We all get assistance at certain times of our lives. So what that means for guardianship is this. Before we decide that a person lacks capacity, before we decide that a person cannot make choices, we need to ask a simple question. What else have you tried? Because a person may need a guardian, but a person may not. There may be something out there that could help the person exercise his or her capacity in the same way that I got help exercising my capacity to decide whether or not to get knee surgery. Another way of looking at that is the way that an organization called the National Guardianship Association puts it. The National Guardianship Association, by the way, is the largest association in America made of and for guardians. They work with guardians, they train guardians, they have a code of ethics for guardians. I think it's fair to say there is no one in the country more engaged in guardianship or more interested in guardianship than the National Guardianship Association. And what they say about supported decision-making and guardianship is on your screen. They say, before seeking a guardianship, try something else. Try supported decision-making. Maybe that would solve the problem. Maybe that would help the person exercise his or her right to make choices so that he or she would not have to lose that right. Because supported decision-making can provide that assistance in the same way it does it for you and me. Supported decision-making can help people understand their choices. It can help them understand their options or focus their attention or weigh their options or make sure that their choices are based upon truly their preferences. I mean, think about it. When I go to my friend and say, I really, really want to buy a convertible, and he goes, Jonathan, you're 47 years old and you have 2 kids. You probably don't need a convertible. What he's doing is he's helping me weigh my options to make sure that I understand that I'm not making an impulse or a silly decision. That's what happens for me. It can happen for people with disabilities too. Supported decision-making can help people communicate their choices. They can help people exercise their decision-making voice so that they are truly in charge of their lives, showing that they understand the choices they have to make because they got the help they needed, and then exercised their right to make choices. And the beautiful thing about supported decision-making is there's no one-size-fits-all model. People ask me all the time, okay, supported decision-making sounds great. What's step 1? What's step 2? What's step 3? Where's the app? Where's the form? Where's the guide? Good news, there isn't one. In fact, someday, if supported decision-making does in fact become the way that we do things, someone's going to try to sell you something. They're going to say, I've got the one and only way to do this. Pay me $50 and you'll get my book that works for every single person for supported decision-making. When you hear that, run. Because that implies that every person makes decisions in the same way. People do things differently. We all have different decision-making methodologies. Some people, for some decisions, just need that friendly ear, like when I'm trying to decide whether to buy that convertible. Some people just need 1 or 2 go-to people they can seek out when they have decisions they have to make. Other people like to have formal processes like powers of attorney or advance directives, which spell out for specific decisions who they'll go to, when they'll go, and how. Where I'll say, I want you to be my go-to person on medical care, and here's how we'll do it. I'm going to give you a release to talk to my doctors. And when I go to the doctor, you're going to come with me, and you're going to be my supporter. You're going to explain what I need to understand. You're going to have access to my records so that you can have the best possible information, and that way I can make the best decisions. And you're going to help me with finances. You're going to have access to my bank records if I want you to have that. And every 2 weeks, we'll go over a budget. And we'll be able to talk about what my best possible spending habits are so that I can build toward maybe even buying that convertible. Other people want really very formal, very set systems, sometimes called circles of support or micro boards, like a personal board of directors where we meet every couple of weeks and go over options and go over parts of my life and make decisions based upon the input of that board. All of those things are supported decision-making, because supported decision-making has 3 things in common. And if you do these 3 things, if you make these 3 commitments, you're engaging in supported decision-making, and here they are. First one's easy. First one is a commitment that goes like this. Every single person has the right to make choices to the maximum of his or her ability. If we start there, the rest of it's easy. And that's an easy place to start, isn't it? Think about the Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all people are created equal and are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, including life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Doesn't that just mean we all have the right to make choices? So if we start there with that commitment, the second one's easy, is that we can get help in exercising our right to make choices without giving up our right to make choices. I can say to my friend, help me make a decision about getting car repairs, without saying I can never make car repair decisions. If we do that, the third one's even easier. That there are as many ways to get help as there are people. That we can think broadly about our options when it comes to supported decision-making and our methodologies, that we can exercise and use as many tools as there are in the toolbox to find the way to help a person find and exercise his or her right to make choices, to demonstrate that he or she has capacity, just like the National Guardianship Association says, that we should try something else, that we should ask that question, what else have you tried before seeking guardianship? Because remember how I told you how self-determination is a good thing? How self-determination leads to a better life? Well, preliminary reviews are suggesting that people who use supported decision-making have more self-determination. That's not surprising. If I'm the final decision maker in my life, instead of having someone else make decisions for me, then of course I have more control over my life. And if I have more control over my life and I have more self-determination, and we know from 40 years of studies, that more self-determination equals a better life, then shouldn't we do what the National Guardianship Association says? At least try something else before seeking guardianship. And opportunities to try those things are all around us. Here are a few on your screen. Vocational rehabilitation, IPE meetings, person-centered planning in Medicare and Medicaid, the Conversation in 5 Wishes end-of-life planning. All of these are opportunities to exercise supported decision-making, because all of them involve the necessity of people making choices, and all of them give a person an opportunity to get assistance in making those choices. And in our next sessions, we're going to start talking about ways that people can get assistance in very specific areas so that they can make their own decisions and have access to the better life that increased self-determination brings.